man, I need to make a new guide. I need to make a new hero guide. It's been too long. The views are dropping, the subs are dropping. They love the hero guides. But I can only play Anna. What am I gonna do? I don't know any other heroes. I made Widowmaker. Oh man, what? Wait a second. Overbuff. First, second, third, fourth. Top 5 Symmetra. Top 5 Symmetra in the world? Hold on. But I only have 17 hours on Symmetra in my entire life. That's it, guys. We all know that overbuff is never wrong. We know that. It's never wrong, guys. I'm not joking. It's seriously 100% accurate. So, here we are. Overwatch official expert Symmetra, 17 hours. Let's get into this. To start off, I know that there's some confusion about what Symmetra's role actually is. I've heard that she's a DPS, as support, even an off tank, which is a bit weird, but what is she? Well, she's a support. Yeah, I don't know if you're expecting a little bit more of a unique answer, but that's it. She's just a support. This is because none of her abilities do very much on their own without a team. Even her weapon is best used when her team is already engaged to fight and you come from the side or behind to clean up and support them. She isn't a healer though, obviously, which can seem awkward at first, but because of her ability to sustain the team in other ways, pairing her with one high-capacity healer like an Anna or a Mercy is great. If you're going to run 2 healers though, make sure it's an Anna and a Zenyatta, otherwise you'll be a bit weak on damage because you'll just have too many support heroes. On offense, an Anna and a Lucio can be good too, just don't go for any long-range battles because again, you don't have the damage. Of course, what really cements Symmetra's position as a support are her 2 ultimates. Both of them are basically team-wide buffs that help your team sustain a position for longer. Because a lot of Symmetra's supporting power is locked up in her ultimate though, it's essential to get it as absolutely fast as possible. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about that in a bit. First, let's go over her abilities. Number 1, we'll go over her new ability, Photon Barrier. You shoot out a Reinhardt Shield. That's literally it. It has 1,000 health, so it's basically unkillable during its short lifespan. I don't think you'll really appreciate just how good, though, a Reinhardt Shield is until you start using this skill. The first and easiest use of the shield is to just enhance your own literal Reinhardt's shield with it. If you're defending, for example, you can really extend the lifespan of your Reinhardt's shield by throwing out your Photon Barrier every time it's off cooldown, and it's a pretty short cooldown, by the way. Because of this, teams with Symmetra have a really big advantage when it comes to Reinhardt Shield battles. Now, the barrier travels an infinite distance, essentially, so the longer the distance that you're blocking, the more effective it is because it lasts longer. Using it on very high-range enemies like Widowmaker and Hanzo can take them out of the fight for a very long time, or force them to move to a worse position. But now we have the real part, the fun part. Your Photon Barrier can block anything in the game, but you have to really get into your opponent's heads. That's why Symmetra is the number 1 choice if you love mind games and trying to predict your opponent's moves. A well-timed Photon Barrier can turn a lot of 1v1s, I'd say about 90-95% of matchups, in your favor. You just need to be, as I said, in your opponent's head. Pay attention to the habits of certain heroes in general and update them based on specific players in your particular game. Soldier, for example, will tend to shoot a few bullets and then helix, like 3 to 4 bullets. McCree will either throw their flashbang immediately after seeing you on reaction, or take a shot first and then flashbang you. You have to pay attention to player-specific habits. You need to pay attention to what's their McCree doing? Does he shoot first? Does he flashbang first? When your Reinhardt drops his shield and you see their Reinhardt move up and start to get a little bit eager, expect an Earth Shatter. You can even use Photon Barrier to zone out Zarya ultimates for when you think she'll want to go for it. The more you try to go for these types of big play Photon Barriers, the better you'll get. And this is the number 1 thing that separates just okay or good Symmetra players from great or really good Symmetra players. Go for those big Photon Barriers. They can really turn a fight. Anyway, next up we have her weapon. The left click is pretty simple. It's a short-range beam that starts out small and charges up to become huge damage the more you keep it up. At max charge, it does 120 DPS, which just absolutely melts anyone who isn't a big old tank. The weapon starts to lose charge after 3 seconds of not using it, so that's a pretty long time. You don't need to be constantly staying in the fight. You have plenty of time to back off, reposition, all that stuff. 3 seconds. The key is to start out the fight a bit shy when you have no charge. You can build up a few levels from random stuff lying around like a Winston shield or a May wall or tanks that aren't looking at you yet. You just need to keep the beam on for 1 second to gain 1 level of charge. And there's 3 levels, so short pokes and jabs will build it up pretty quickly. Don't go in and try to kill anyone at the beginning of the fight before you have any charge. Once you've built up a few levels, though, you can fully commit, get in there, and just start tearing people up. Always focus the supports first, then the DPS, then the tanks. Symmetra is probably the best support hunter in the game, really. Once you get into range, because their slippery hitboxes, on the Lucio or the Ana or whatever, and their jumpy dodging won't help them against your beam, because you don't really have to aim, of course. Speaking of jumpy dodginess, that's Symmetra's specialty. The best way to fight anyone, especially hit scan heroes like Soldier and McCree, is to go up and hug them as closely as possible and jump around and past them back and forth so that they constantly have to be doing 180-degree turns with their camera. You don't really have to aim, like I said before, so this type of movement doesn't affect you nearly as much as it's going to affect anyone who you are jumping around. Next, we have her weapons, right click. Alright, hold the button to charge, let go once the circle in the crosshair reaches the maximum size. Pretty easy. This thing goes through players and shields, so you can hit a bunch of people in a line, even if they're behind a Reinhardt Shield or something like that. The ball also damages the Reinhardt Shield as it passes through it. So this, combined with your photon barrier, like I said before, really makes Symmetra one of the best heroes to win a Reinhardt Shield poke battle with, which is a little bit strange, right? You wouldn't think that normally. So this thing, the right click, is mostly used to spam Reinhardt Shields and try to get some early ult charge, but you can also sneak up behind someone with a fully charged orb and blast them point blank in the back for a very fast kill. Alright, so I said that you can use your right click to build some early ultimate. And that is the number one key to playing Symmetra, really. Number one, her ult is so essential. And if you don't know how to build it up early, you're going to be completely useless, especially on defense. You want to have your ult up within the first minute of the round at most, but earlier is always better. On attack, this is done by playing aggressively with your photon barrier, getting up close, getting those accurate right clicks into enemy frontline players. And encourage your team to push fast, because a quick push can easily get you a full ultimate charge if you get that full charged left click beam on a tank for just even a couple seconds. On defense, getting your ult fast is far more crucial. If you don't get your ult up quickly, it can easily cost you the point early on. For this, I have a trick, and it uses her last main skill, Sentry Turret. You can put 6 of these little things down, and they do a pretty healthy 25 DPS each. They also recharge pretty quickly now, so you can put 6 on the enemy spawn and get some very early damage in to build up your ultimate. There are a few different strategies to doing this. A lot of players like to stagger out the turrets and put like one down every few meters along the road so that it's a constant small annoyance. The idea is that the opponents have to turn for each one. The other way is to put them all at the door for one big sentry turret barbecue all at the front. Personally, I've found that even in Grandmaster ranks, the sentries all at the door, all up front, all at the same time have a much higher impact and will get you more ult charge on average than the staggered out method. It relies more on that initial surprise factor. You don't stop there though, you don't just put the sentries at the door. You have to throw out right clicks at the door as well. There's a timing for each map in a specific position that lets you land an energy ball on the door right as the gates open, which will almost always catch people by surprise. I'll go through them now and you can pause on whichever one you want. To use these timings, hold right click and continue to hold, allowing the energy ball to release on its own. So it takes about 2 seconds. Just hold right click, don't worry about releasing it. Then immediately walk forward and just throw out more charge shots until you run out of time and you have to run away because the spawn opens up. Then make sure you retreat back to your team and place your sentries down now that they've recharged. So I'm not going to turn this video into a big sentry placement guide. Follow my Twitter for some specific turret placement videos over the course of this week. I'll be putting them out. It's down in the description. I'll give you the general idea though. Again, on most maps, I tend to prefer the all-in style of placing all your turrets in one area, instead of just putting one in several different places to be generally annoying. Now a big thing, turrets will do nothing on their own. Turrets will do nothing on their own. They're purely a supportive skill. You or your team needs to be there to protect them, or they'll just be easily killed and they won't do anything. Don't put sentries on a doorway expecting them to protect it and then leave. The only time I can ever see that work is when you're dealing with a Genji, a flanking Genji, because Genji specifically doesn't have many good ways to kill them. But even he can dash through them. He has ways. So again, always manage your turrets. Be there with them. Also, make sure that your turrets are as spread out and as high up as possible. Even if they're all focused on one spot, you can still spread them out. They have way more range than most people think, so use this to your benefit. If you're putting them in a doorway, place them as far apart as possible, and it's going to make it harder to kill them all at once than if they were all grouped up. Alright, so that's it for the basic skills. Let's talk about her ultimate. She has two modes, of course, teleport and shield. The teleporter lets your team get back into the fight much quicker after they die, and the shield generator tries to make them not die in the first place by giving your entire team 75 additional shield health. The shield generator does have a maximum range, but it's absolutely huge, so you can put it very far back and still be fine. That being said, though, you don't want to put it too far, because then you can't defend it. We'll get into that later, though. So, do you choose the shield or the teleporter? In general, on attack, unless you're going for some cheeky backstab teleporter thing, you're going to want to put down the shield generator. Especially on the first point, you're going to always want to put down the shield. The reason for this is the shield is more useful, first of all, because often attackers have the spawn advantage anyway, so they don't need the teleporter. And also, after capturing a point, the shield generator is completely refunded back to 100%. The teleporter does not get a full refund though, it's based on remaining charges. So if you put a shield generator down and cap the point, you can immediately put another one down and cap the next point with it. The only time you'll want to think about a teleporter on attack is if it's on the final point or the final checkpoint and the defenders have that big spawn distance advantage. On defense, it's a bit trickier. Think of it like this. Assuming your team gets fully wiped, will a teleporter allow you to come back and actually get another team fight in before the point's taken? On the first point, or checkpoint of most maps, this is often the case. Defenders have a very long spawn, so the teleporter allows you to get in another team fight and try to salvage what would normally be a loss. This is not always the case, however. Let's say you're on the first checkpoint and the cart is only 5 meters away from the end. Or if you're on a control point and the enemy has 2 ticks already taken of the point. In these cases, you do not want a teleporter. If your team gets wiped, the enemy will be able to take the point before your team returns, even when you have a teleporter, because they're just so close to taking it in the first place, so it won't help you. Here, you're going to want a shield generator. This is also pretty common on later points and later checkpoints where the defenders have increasingly shorter spawn distances. Shield generator becomes stronger as most maps progress, because by the end of a payload map, the defender spawn is practically all on the point already. A teleporter isn't going to make that much of a difference. So it really isn't so cut and dry. You have to think about how much time it'll take for the enemy to capture the objective after a team wipe, and if a teleporter will allow your team enough time to respawn and salvage it. Alright, last thing, the placement of the buildings is very important. You have to make sure that there are no long angles that particularly a Pharah, but also Widowmaker Hanzo, those guys, can shoot it from. Remember, she can get it even if it's a little bit around a corner with the splash damage. The best spots are enclosed buildings or other tight spaces. You'll be moving your sentry turrets to defend your ultimate, and these do well in tight spaces also. Again, follow me on Twitter for specific building placements. Check that out in the description. You have to be very, very paranoid when it comes to your ultimate. Check the other team's composition. If they have a Pharah, a Genji, a Tracer, anyone who can get around and take out your building from behind, assume that's what they're doing all the time, anytime they go missing. Unless you can confirm that Pharah is over there with her team, for example, assume she's coming straight for your ultimate. At this stage, you pretty much have to play babysitter, especially if you chose to put down a teleporter, because that's a very important building. And you aren't doing your team any harm either by not fighting with them. Ideally, it's still even. It's a 5 versus 5, because you know the flanker is back with you, looking for your building. Literally just sit with your ultimate and guard it from the flanker. And this is why you can't put it too far back in the case of a shield generator, even though you can. It should still be close enough that you can sit by and guard it without having to be in a completely different dimension from where your team is. When it comes to enclosed spaces with sentry turrets supporting you, there's no hero in the game that Symmetra can't 1v1. Literally none. Continue to guard your ultimate until the enemy flanker gets frustrated and switches off, or if your team loses a fight and you're forced to actually go defend the point. Now, of course, if the enemy has no flankers, Let's say they have a triple tank with a soldier, for example. They have nobody who can get around and kill your ultimate, so there's no need to sit back and guard it. Just go up with your team. Always pay attention, though, to the enemy team composition. Press that tab button. You never know when someone will switch. But anyway, guys, I think that's just about it. Symmetra is the best janitor in the game. She cleans up fights very well, so try to stay out of a fight until the enemy is fully distracted. She's literally all about matchup knowledge and predicting enemy movements. So when you start learning her, push everything to the limit. Go for those 1v1s. Go for those big plays. Try to predict abilities with your photon barrier. The more you go for it, the more you will learn. And becoming a good Symmetra player is going to teach you more about the subtle inner workings of Overwatch, getting into people's heads, than any other hero. It's really an awesome experience. So I really suggest and invite everyone to go try out Symmetra, go have fun melting faces and supporting your team while you do it on attack and defense. She's good on both now, guys. But anyway, guys, that's about it. As always, leave any comments down below. You see I'm here personally with the webcam to see you off. Never forget, always stay positive, but I have something I think you're gonna really like. It's this video right here. It's also about Symmetra. It was actually done pretty recently. It was a really good game I played. I kind of give my thought process. It's pretty good, so you should definitely check it out. It's really the best option if you're going to continue watching on YouTube. This is the video for you right here. So yeah, have a great day. Peace out, guys.